Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life, and this deal has officially been announced. We got the announcement early this morning. It's out there now, and now there's all types of speculations going around and talks about T-Mobile having to be, having to act. They should buy Comcast. They should buy Spectrum Charter. They should buy Lumen. And I wanted to make this video saying that right now, that is not a good idea for T-Mobile. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe even longer down the line, maybe. But right now, why should T-Mobile immediately respond? And I want to throw out a few examples and discuss those. So as for this deal, it's officially announced. Verizon's going to pay $20 billion all cash, a lot more than what they've originally sold it for. But they had to take on the debt, right? Frontier's valued at around $7 billion, and they carried about $12 billion or so worth of debt. So you combine those two, and it comes out to around that $20 billion mark. So Verizon will do with those assets what they're going to do with those assets. They're going to make money today. Frontier, they take more than 50% of profits from fiber. So they've done a pretty big overhaul and upgrade on the copper network. So there's still roughly around 50% of the network that's copper. And Verizon will figure out what they do with that. But that's the deal, right? The deal is done. Now we go through the approval process. I'm hearing it's expected to take about 18 months, and it's going to be a very thorough process, I believe. But at the end, most are anticipating that this gets approved. So now, T-Mobile, right? Why would T-Mobile need to respond? Could T-Mobile even respond? And as it stands today, could they even buy Charter, Spectrum, Comcast? And if you're going by market caps and all that, yes, T-Mobile would be able to buy Charter, Spectrum at least. I think they are like 4 times bigger today. But the problem is Charter, Spectrum has a ton of debt. Their long-term debt is $97 billion. So if you combine that, and T-Mobile would have to add that to their balance sheet. If you combine that with T-Mobile's debt today, I mean, you're talking close to $200 billion worth of debt. That blows up T-Mobile's entire business case. The whole talk about having the balance sheet to defend their position, all of that goes out the window with that deal. If they were to do it. I highly doubt they do it in the short term, midterm, even the long term. I think that's probably like 15, 20 years out if they were to pursue this. So you have to think of it like that. $200 billion, T-Mobile doesn't have the margins as it stands today to support that much debt. Meaning, when you carry that much debt, you have to deleverage. So you have to make enough free cash flow and have enough margins to adequately pay down that debt. Today, they wouldn't have it. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't have enough money to put down a good enough chunk to deleverage quick. It would take them a while. And that would essentially ruin their stock. Taking on that much debt, I mean, their stock price would be done. So I don't see that happening, and I don't see the need for that. T-Mobile, if they continue to do the little deals that they've been doing, right? Metronet, Lumos, maybe a Lumen. I think that's a possibility in the short to midterm. But something as big as Charter, Spectrum, I don't see it. What would they even do with the assets? Let's start there. Charter, Spectrum today, they don't operate a lot of fiber. I think they do some fiber, but it's very minimal. And they're mostly DOCSIS. They do coaxial, copper. So what is T-Mobile going to do with that? Let's be honest. T-Mobile has no understanding of how to operate any wireline. What are they going to do with that? Are they going to invest the cap? So not only are they going to take on the debt, right? The 97, I think it's like 97.8 billion long-term debt that Charter carries. Now they're going to invest 20 plus billion to upgrade all that cable to fiber. T-Mobile doesn't have the financial stability to do that today. Yes, T-Mobile makes free cash flow. Yes, they have cash on hand, but not to support that type of business. They would have to raise pricing beyond belief to gain the margins needed to support that type of business model. They don't have it today. And I don't think they will have it in the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to get an update September 18th of where they believe they will be in the next 5 years on finances. And it won't be to support that type of business model. No way. They just don't have it today. And I don't think it's going to be in the next 5 years, maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now. But why even pursue it? They need pure fiber wireless. That's what they want to do. They want to be wireless and pure fiber. They don't want to do any cable. And quite frankly, Verizon doesn't want to do that either. So with this purchase of Frontier, if they decide to keep that copper footprint, I guarantee you they're going to upgrade it. But Verizon today, they have the margins to support the CapEx required to upgrade that copper. They can do it and still make the same free cash flow that they've been posting and maybe more. If T-Mobile pursued this, they would blow up their business model. Their free cash flow is ruined. They would have to take a significant chunk of the free cash flow to increase the CapEx to support that business model. That's why I'm saying the margins for T-Mobile today are not there. T-Mobile would have to significantly increase pricing so they can maintain a higher CapEx and still have the same level of free cash flow. Today, they don't have it. That's why their CapEx is lower and their free cash flow is higher, because the margins don't support a higher CapEx. So if T-Mobile wanted to raise CapEx, they would have to take that from free cash flow and or maybe buybacks, whichever one, and then support it that way. But the market and the street, they're gonna look at that, in my opinion, in a negative light. So T-Mobile will have to work through several years of raising margins, likely price increases, right? It's gonna be different with T-Mobile. T-Mobile, I feel, is gonna be more like a 50-50 approach. Verizon told us today and yesterday it's 80-20, 80% price, 20% volume. So they're ready to pull the pricing lever at any time. And this whole satellite thing, they talked about it this morning. It was Sampath and Joe Russo. This whole satellite thing, anything that they're doing to expand the network, deepen the network, more capacity with the C-band, they assume that as value to justify price increase. They're saying now that we have coverage across the ocean or across the entire 3.8 million square miles of the Everglades, we can now turn that into value and charge more for that value. And the customer would agree with that. That's literally what they talked about this morning. I'm not making it up. That's what they said. That's what Sampath said. So that's what we're dealing with. So T-Mobile, they just don't have the juice today. I'll be very honest. Looking at all the financials, right? And it's not going to require a certified financial analyst to pick this apart. It's quite simple. Looking at everything, right? The reason T-Mobile is able to post the free cash flow that they're able to post and continue to increase that is because they have a lower CapEx. As soon as that CapEx needs to go up, for if they do own and operate fiber, they're going to have to increase CapEx because they're going to have to invest into that. That's a capital upfront intense business. So not a good idea. I'll just leave it at that, right? To not let this video go too long. It's just not a good idea for T-Mobile to be reactionary, to respond to any of it. They just need to let Verizon go through this process and let them work out what they need to work out. T-Mobile and AT&T, they have intelligence teams like that predict stuff like this. So both of them probably already knew that Verizon was getting into this. It's possible through the process of T-Mobile trying to acquire fiber players. They had discussions with Frontier and were probably told behind the scenes that Verizon is at the forefront. It's very possible that they knew, and they decided to go with Metronet and Lumos, which I think for them are far better deals. It's still capital light, although like I keep mentioning, it does add up. It's still capital light for T-Mobile. It still allows them to engage into other deals, right? With this new deal for Verizon, it's $20 billion total, right? It adds to their debt portfolio. It increases their leverage, I think, by 0.2. So now they're not going to be as flexible, right? They're still going to probably engage and go through questionnaires with other companies, but they're not going to be as flexible to say, okay, we're just going to buy this, we're going to buy that. Right. So now we have to go through the process of them deleveraging again to hit their targets. And then maybe, because we still might have some spectrum purchases coming up. Dish might still put up their spectrum assets for sale. So you have to be ready for that, too. So you got to think about that. So that's something that Verizon will deal with. I think T-Mobile will kind of take a back seat now, and they will look at it and say, look, our balance sheet now is even better because Verizon just loaded up on more debt. AT&T is still paying down on all their media debt. So T-Mobile will likely take the position that their balance sheet is now even better. All the additional debt that we've taken on is mostly wireless, which we are a pure wireless play for now. And we will continue open access fiber purchases. That's likely how that's the position that they will likely take September 18th. And I think that's a very smart play to make. Continue to grow FWA, which you are already at volume ahead of the competition. You have your mid-band at scale. Continue closing the coverage gap, and you can bring competition that way. It's really that simple, in my opinion. Once they continue to close the coverage gap, that allows them to go for more FWA, maybe not the same size and scale as in the metros, but in the small market rural areas, it allows them to pick and likely have first pickings on those customers because they'll get their first with mid-band more than likely. And then you also bundle in the wireless, right, the converged offer. And that's it. Then you go about your business. You look for something else, right? Fiber is now something that they're engaging in, but they're still not owning and operating. So they still don't like that model. That's them, right? They don't like it for the fiber to the cell. They don't like it for the fiber to the premise. So that's just how they're operating. It supports their balance sheet. And like I said, if they start all of a sudden going on a buying spree and owning and operating, it's going to blow up their entire balance sheet. You gotta be mindful of that. It's gonna do it. And then they're gonna start raising CapEx. And then it's really up in the air where pricing goes, right? They will definitely raise price at that point. They're gonna do it now, right? They're gonna do it again, but not to the extent that they may have to raise pricing if they start owning and operating all these companies. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Just wanted to say that this would not be a good idea for T-Mobile, in my opinion. I think right now they just need to stay on course and execute their current strategy or whatever other strategy they present to us September 18th. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. See you out in the next one. Peace.